Hey Ian, you ready?
You bet I am. What are we talking about tonight? And talk about guns?
If it's not a 30 cal, I'm not in.
Jeez, mate, that's not very inclusive. Have you seen Jono?
Hey Jono, you ready?
Well, God knows where he is, mate. He's probably caught up in the neighbour's wire again. Are you ready to go? Let's do this.
Mate, I'm ready. Let's crank it up.
Righto then. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Hunter's Campfire, where we're going to talk about all things hunting and the great outdoors. And we'll probably throw in a few tips along the way.
You want a tip? Say it once, say it 1,000 times. Goats love rocks.
Or a few things about deer. Mark, what do you reckon about deer?
As a deer hunter, I love hunting pigs.
Well, that's about as useful as I expected it to be. Oh, check it out. Here comes Jono. He's being chased by the neighbour's dog.
Okay guys, let's get this started. Welcome to the Hunter's Campfire. Pull up a chair, get comfortable. It's time for the Hunter's Campfire. And there's the pause. And good evening, everyone.
Howdy,
Good
howdy.
evening. Who's got their phone on? The phone just binged again.
It's me. It's all good. That'll happen all day. This is what happens when you put Instagram posts on 5 minutes before you jump on a podcast. You get all of
There
the
we go.
community going, yeah, this is cool. Anyway, welcome back. It's great to be podcasting again. And nice to have a guest on. And Kate, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. I think you may be in our hunting community, one of a few ladies that joins us from time to time. So it's nice to have a fresh face. It's great to have you here.
Well, thanks
Yeah, I
for
was gonna-
having me.
I was going to say, for those listening, Jono is not here, and we've
Hey.
and Kate is. We haven't replaced Jono yet, but maybe we'll see at the end of it. And you are our first guest for the year. We're pretty loose when it comes to this podcast. There is a few things we intend to do, but you're our first guest. So welcome to 2025. And what we'll do is we're going to run through a bit of a news update, or what we call new, and then we'll jump over and start speaking. We'll start asking you lots and lots of questions, Kate, and finding out what you're doing. But I have, before we begin, I think the first thing that I want to ask you is the Lady Liberty tag.
Yeah,
Um,
so
Give us a rundown on the Lady Liberty tag.
yeah, it actually came about. I ran for the Senate in the Western Australian election in 2022, and I ran for the Liberal Democrat Party, which is the party of former Senator David Leyonhjelm, who some of you might recall was the most
Mhm.
pro-gun senator we ever had. I
Yeah.
had the pleasure of working for him. And when I announced my candidacy to run, I understand that my last name, Fantinel, is quite difficult for people to pronounce. It's Italian background. And I just thought I'd better put something out there just so people can look me up easily. And liberty is one of the things that I embrace and stand for. And I ran on a platform of liberty for all, including gun owners. That was the focus of my campaign in WA. That was just before the new gun laws were released. It was after the police minister doxed all of us on the front page of the West Australian newspaper, giving our addresses to the local paper to put on the front page as part of a scare campaign. So I just thought, I'll call myself Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty. When I saw that in New York, I cried, and I love the American attitude towards liberty and embracing that. So that's where it came from.
Okay. So it's Mr. Mark, Hair Hurls, and Lady Liberty.
Sounds like a good show.
The motley crew. That's right, except for one of us. That's right. So, hey, that's really
Yeah.
cool. That's a hell of a lot of stuff that happened in that campaign, isn't it? It's having stuff published, personal details published. What was the fallout? What happened? I mean, we can jump into some detail here, but you raised it there. So, what was the backlash, and how did you deal with such a thing?
Yeah, it was horrifying to wake up on a Sunday morning and grab the newspaper and on the front page a map where you could identify where we lived. It was instructed by Police Minister Paul Papalia to give our addresses from the firearms registry to the newspaper. They even color-coded the dots with pistol, rifles and shotguns. A few weeks later, a home got broken into, a man was set on fire and his firearms were stolen. So it was quite astounding, and people were terrified because this is private information that was leaked to the press. The funny or not so funny thing, as it turns out, is WA is the only state that does not have privacy laws, and Labor, being very smart, checked to make sure they didn't breach any federal laws. So there was actually no fallout because they didn't break any privacy laws, which is just astonishing to think that a government has this information about our private property, which they tell us we need to keep securely stored and away from the public. They gave that information to the public and put a man's life at risk, not to mention all the other homes that had to increase their own security. So there was no fallout. And ever since then, it's just been an attack on licensed firearm owners in WA, which is still my home state. I'm heading back there this month because I've launched legal action against the gun laws. And I was just talking to Mark off air about that. The gun limits, which is a huge one. I'm sure you've heard about that. 5 guns for hunters and 10 guns for competition shooters, but you have to justify why you need each of those guns. So ever since that doxing event, I mean, they brought in the bans on long-range rifles, so a lot of the veteran community was disarmed. Veterans who shoot long-range precision rifle had to hand their guns into the state because the government said they were no longer legal in that state. It's just been a nightmare in that state. So that's why I'm heading back there. And that's why I ran for the Senate in 2022 against those gun laws. I didn't get in, unfortunately, but it hasn't stopped me from being part of the fight. And I'm trying to do everything I can for shooters and hunters in Australia because we are demonized, we are not respected, and we are an easy target because the public don't understand what we do, especially the hunting community. I'm a proud hunter. I grew up hunting with my dad here in South Australia. I have such a respect for those who do this activity. It's a public service as far as I'm concerned. So anything I can do to stand up for us against governments, that's what I'll do.
Should we keep rolling?
Oh yeah,
Or
go.
do we come back to the news bit, or do we keep moving?
Don't
What do
forget
we
the
do?
news. Let's keep going.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
Is that your phone, Mark?
Yeah,
Good job, mate. Yep.
Siri thinks we're talking to her.
Siri's probably just reported me to the government.
Yeah,
I'm already on a list, Siri. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
So-
No doubt you are.
Okay, so let's. I'm just trying to think where we can back up to. So you said you hunted with your father. So tell us about your that particular journey. That's probably a good place to start. What do you think, Ian?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
There is a
absolutely.
Beretta box in that
WA.
room that you're in too.
Yeah, the connection to WA as well, because I think I picked up that you ran in WA, but you live in South Australia, and you were brought up in South Australia, so there's a connection somewhere.
Yes, so going back a long way, I was born in South Australia in the Flinders Ranges, where I am currently now visiting and staying with my parents. I was locked behind the border in WA for 2.5 years, so any chance I get to come home and spend time with my parents, I take it. Currently in my dad's gun room, so very locked and loaded here, ready to go.
So
And
quality
yeah,
branded
he
case on your right hand side there.
That's
yeah,
right.
promoting Beretta if they want to sponsor me. Let me know. I want a silver pigeon one day. But yeah, I grew up here hunting with my dad in the foothills behind the Flinders Ranges here where I live. Lots of goats, big goat problem here. So helping him go out there and cull goats. Also, my grandmother had a farm nearby. So every weekend out there spotlighting foxes and rabbits, holding the spotlight, learning how to shoot. And then as I got older, moved to Adelaide to go to uni. And I took up pistol shooting. So I really got into my pistol shooting, bought a Browning Buckmark 22, won a few pistol club medals with that. And then I ended up working for the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia in the national office for 5 years in media and lobbying. So I was traveling to Canberra a lot, meeting with politicians, educating them about what we do because most of them have no idea. They would never seen a gun before in their life. So trying to educate them that we are not the bad guys. And then that's when I met Senator David Leyonhjelm. So he offered me a job working for him. And that started me on the libertarian journey, which is a political philosophy that I embrace, although I'm more of an anarchist these days because I do not trust the state and I'm sick of them telling us what to do. And then after he lost his seat in the 2019 election, I moved across to WA to work for Aaron Stonehouse, who was the upper house member for the Liberal Democrats there in Perth. So I got there in February 2020. The border was shut in March 2020 and it remained closed for 2.5 years. So I was kind of stuck there. But during that time, Aaron Stonehouse lost his seat at the 2021 election when Labor won an absolute majority. It's a one-party state. I was talking to Mark about that before as well. And that's why we're at the point that we're in WA. It's Labor, they are socialists. And if you look up what socialists believe in, they do not believe in private firearms ownership. They believe this military, police, and security guards for the elite should be the only ones who own guns. So while the gun laws were a surprise to many people over there, it wasn't so much to me because I know that that's their philosophy. That's what they believe. So that's why I ran in the Senate election in 2022 as Lady Liberty. And I ran on a Give Gun Owners a Fair Go campaign. That was my slogan. I visited Police Minister Paul Parlia's office, tried to give him one of my signs, which had me shooting a 308 Lee Enfield on it. I don't think he appreciated it. They told me to go away and called the cops on me. So that's the kind of attitude you have towards people who are just peacefully protesting over there. And ever since then, I've gone to America so many times. I've shot many guns. I actually have a belt-fed link as a necklace here, if you can see. So Shooting a belt-fed, most exhilarating experience of my life. I just love getting out. I'll have a go at anything. I'm not very good at shotgun, but I'm getting better with practice. And yeah, I honestly just believe that hunters and shooters in Australia, like it's part of our tradition and culture. It's something that I grew up with. I'm proud that I've got those skills. I think it's an old tradition that everyone should learn. And I'm just doing what I can to educate Australians that we are not the bad guys. It's the criminals who misuse firearms. We respect firearms so much. Like the first thing we learn, never point a firearm at someone else. Always check that it's loaded. Those things have been drilled into me. So I get very frustrated when we're misrepresented in the media by politicians like we have been in WA, portraying us as the threat when we're the ones going out doing the public service and helping our farmers and protecting our native land. So that's why I've stayed active. I'm not running in politics this time. I was going to run against Police Minister Paul Parlia over there, but I don't have the support of the shooting organisations, SSAAWA and Shooters Union over there. They don't support me. They didn't support my Senate campaign. So instead of doing that, I've changed to launching legal action against the gun laws. So I've got a King's Council looking at the gun laws, identifying where we can challenge them through the courts, because I don't believe there is a political solution anymore.
Okay. So that's an interesting approach. So you're thinking they're going to, so your feeling is that they're going to retain the majority after the election?
Because Labor had such massive swings towards them in 2021, and I just want to make it clear that that election in March 2021, when Premier Mark McGowan had a 92% approval rating, it was purely because WA wanted to keep the border closed. There was nothing about reforming the Firearms Act that was not on the agenda. It was purely an election about the pandemic and keeping WA closed for as long as possible. So unfortunately, it will take more than this election cycle for a swing. Yes, I do believe there will be swings against Labor this time, but it would not be enough to get them out of government in the lower house. They will still win more seats there, which is where government is formed. So I am also focusing on the upper house, which is the House of Review, where you can stop a lot of things. And I've worked with a lot of the parties over there, the Liberals, Shooters and Fishers, legalised cannabis, who are pro-gun in WA. They're not like the eastern states parties. I've done a lot of work with them, forming coalitions with people who support what I want in terms of advancing liberty. And guns is the big one I'm going for at this election. So I believe there will be changes in the upper house, and I'm working closely with all those parties. I'm hosting an upper house town hall firearms event at the end of the month to have the candidates on stage where people can ask them questions about what they are going to do if they're elected. All of them have promised a full review of the Firearms Act, the ones who are coming to my event. So that's positive change, but it will take 4 years for these laws to be reversed. They come into effect on the 1st of April in full. it's not going to be the first thing on the agenda for the new government. They've got
No.
cost of living, they've got other things that it's just not going to be as much as I want them to be. I want them to be torn up on day one. It's not going to happen. So we need to look at all other angles, and my legal action challenge is a way of getting aspects of these laws, specifically the gun limits, because it's an arbitrary ban on private property ownership in Australia. It doesn't reflect a democracy, and it doesn't respect private property ownership rights. So I want that before a judge who can rule that these laws are invalid. You cannot do that if you don't have legal action prepared. So I've launched a fundraiser. I'm about halfway there last time I checked. I have a team of lawyers who are working with me, including a King's Counsel who is going to provide that high-level advice, who can identify where we can actually get wins in the courts. So that's what I'm doing, because I just don't believe that Labor will be voted out this time. Perhaps in 4 years' time, we'll see. But I want the shortest solution for shooters, because we cannot afford to wait another 4 years to get rid of these horrendous laws.
So with you're feeling that Labor will retain government, who do you think, or who do you see as of the majors is the best solution for people to vote for?
Well, it's interesting because the Liberal Party, their leader is Libby Mettam. She has come out and says she won't change the gun laws. However, there is a faction in the Liberal Party over there, and Nick Gorian, who is the member in the upper house, does want a full review. So I've been working with him and his side of the party, because I believe he will get candidates elected that can help him with his version of changing the laws. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you, the politics is hard because there's factions within parties, there's wheeling and dealing. It's a big game, and that's kind of why I've taken a step back, because I just don't like all the dirty deals that go on. When I put my hand up to run, there were already deals going around to try and keep me out, including from the shooting community, because some of these people benefit from these laws, right? And that's one thing that we saw with the new laws, is that mandatory club membership. So for hunters, for shooters who have 10 guns, you have to join a club to keep your guns. And if you have more than 2, you have to join a different club to justify that. So it's just directly funneling people into the clubs, which benefits the organizations. It doesn't benefit the individual shooter. So I'm working with that faction of the Liberal Party. The Nationals over there, they don't typically do well in the Metro vote, and WA, they've changed the electoral laws, of course, Labor has, to make it harder for minor parties to get in. So the Nationals won't do as well, although they've promised to review the gun laws too, so we'll see. And then the minor parties, shooters and fishers, legalise cannabis, the Christians as well over there, who are likely to get one in the upper house. They are all on board with a review of the gun laws, and that's something I have been talking to them personally about and lobbying them to say, look, this is not right. The consultation period, the whole thing, they did not listen to anything. None of the laws were changed during that whole consultation period, which went on for 18 months. So the police were also heavily involved in writing the laws too, which is terrifying to think about, because the police are meant to enforce the laws, not write the laws. So we've seen that happen in WA too. The police get to choose what the law is. That is not the police's role. That's the role of politicians. But they have been so involved in it to the point now that people are asking the question, including the politicians, is this democracy? Because the politicians are meant to serve the people. That is not what's happening anymore. They're serving themselves, and we are the ones who are left to live with their decisions.
Ian, I've got 1,000 questions in my head, but I thought I'd better stop.
I want to start with the basic one. And excuse me if it's rude. How old are you?
I'm 37.
You are so knowledgeable on this. It's incredible to listen to all of this information that you have. And so well spoken and so well versed in what it is that you're talking about. You've been doing it for a little while, obviously. Where did it come from? I mean, the passion is there because someone's attacked your lifestyle. I get that. If anyone attacks my lifestyle, I get really aggressively defensive about it. So I get where the passion comes from. Where'd the knowledge come from? How did you step into this? Now, you said you worked with a couple of politicians. Did they build your knowledge base here? How did this come about? Because, man, you are deep in this. I mean, it's beautiful to see that this is you, and this is what's going on. But yeah, tell us how you got there, because it's fascinating to listen.
Sorry, I do go on big rants. I should have
No,
warned you before I
don't
came on.
apologise.
Once I get going, it's very hard to
Really
stop
good.
me.
That's the whole idea of podcast, isn't it? Talking,
Yeah.
Dead air is bad. This is good. So we are back. Now, if you're listening, it might not seem too different, but if you're watching, you might notice that we look very different. And the reason for that was, who are we going to blame for the internet disruption?
The Australian government for the rubbish NBN
Yeah,
service.
they were listening. They were listening, and
That's
they didn't
right.
want the conversation to carry on.
So the Australian Signal Corps was listening in on us, and they disrupted the internet out of South Australia. They took it out. They did like the Russians. They dragged the chain over it and tore it out of the ground. So that's it. So we're back now. So if you're listening, we may repeat ourselves. We apologise in advance.
Yeah, it is 2 days
so
later.
we're trying to splice two different sessions together. And where we believe that we got up to was Ian posted the very good question about, Kate, where do you get your passion, but also your knowledge from? Would that be a fair
Yeah, it's a good place to start, I think.
Let's go.
Yeah, well, he actually asked me my age, which you should
I didn't want to
never.
do that 'cause
You should
do
never
that.
ask a woman her age or
Right,
how many
that'd be
glasses of
rude,
wine. Never
And you
ask a
should-
woman her age, number of glasses of wine she's had, or number of lovers she's had. That's an old Italian saying. So,
Oh,
but
okay, really?
I
I'll
don't
stop
take
at one.
offense.
I'll stop at
Yeah.
one.
Yes, I think I look younger than I am. I'm 37. So old enough to remember 1996. I think that's where I got my passion from, seeing my father have to hand in some of his guns because of the actions of the madman in Tassie. So that's where it all started. And I guess from there, I just was always a bookworm as a kid, loved reading about history, big focus on American history and Australian history. I went to university, studied journalism and media there. So that was a lot of reading and writing. Love just keeping up to speed with what's going on in the world, following what's happening in different countries. I think we can learn a lot from history. So yeah, I just try and be as knowledgeable as I can, especially when we're talking about something like firearms. You need to know what you're talking about. And I worked, so working at SSAA National for 5 years too, where I was just reading all the gun laws in every state and territory. Just absorbing all that information and talking to a lot of politicians and people and scientists and all of that. So I get my knowledge from listening, reading, and talking to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke about experience that you'd had working with various different politicians in Australia. What about the experience from overseas? Where did you work? Whom did you work for? And what experience did you draw out of that?
So I've been to the United States of America a few times now, ended up meeting lots of people there for the gun groups like Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America. They're my two favorite organizations over there, and learning about how they just take things straight to court. As soon as a gun law comes up that challenges the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, and they take it straight to court, and that's their tactics that they use over there in the land of the free. So that's something I've brought back here to Australia with my Western Australian Legal Action Challenge, which I think we have the recording of that. I can't remember what I said. It was 2 nights ago now.
Let's repeat it. If we've missed it, then no one will know. And if we repeat it, well, if it's worth saying twice.
It'll cement in their mind.
That's right. If it's so nice, it's worth saying twice. So let's go.
Yeah, so I have worked for politicians in Australia. Senator David Leyonhjelm, the Liberal Democrat senator, who's the most pro-gun politician we've ever had. I had the honour of working for him and learning a lot from him. And I have run for office as well. I ran for the Senate in WA at the last federal election, 2022. So I have been involved in political parties and working for politicians most of my life. But I've come to the point in Australia now where I don't see a political solution. I think things have gotten so bad, and the parties, especially the two major parties, Liberal and Labor, no longer represent their values, particularly the Liberal Party. They get in there and it's all about themselves and serving themselves and their interests and their factions instead of the people. So I'm not involved in any political party anymore. I'm a lone ranger, and I've launched legal action against the Western Australian government for their gun laws over there. I've got a team of lawyers and a King's Council looking at the laws that come into effect on the 1st of April. I've just seen today, actually, that the regulations that were put out before Christmas have now been changed. So I need to have a look at that again to see what else they've put in there. And then I'll be getting my lawyers to identify areas where we can challenge the laws in the courts, because the election in WA is on the 8th of March. It won't be enough. There won't be enough of a swing to get rid of Labor because it's just out of reach at the moment. It will take another election cycle to see any political change there. I am working on an upper house with candidates there who align with what I believe when it comes to gun laws. So trying to help get as many of them elected as I can. So we've got some balance of power in the upper house where we can review the laws and change them. But in the meantime, I'm purely focused on launching this legal action against the state, because that's how we need to stop it, put it before a judge so that they can rule that some of these laws are invalid. The arbitrary limits on guns, on how many firearms we can own, just 5 for hunters, that's not workable at all. And I think I said if it was recorded that the RSPCA and WA are even against that, because they understand that you need more than 5 guns as a hunter, as a pest control person, to do the job effectively. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Okay. A few questions, if you don't mind.
Of course.
And a couple of statements. Interestingly, for those listening, a King's Council was a Queen's Council, but of course,
that was on my mind when you said that, and I
bit of a change. They used to be called QCs. In fact, for most of us, they were all of our lives that they were QCs, and then very recently they became.
And what's their function?
So they're the barristers for the Crown, as it were. Generally, they're able to be a barrister for a Crown, so you can engage them because you're not representing the Crown in this instance. You can engage them, but that's what they are. It's a level of it's a legal level, or legal title probably is a better way to describe it.
Yeah, it's one of the highest lawyers that you can get, and their opinion, they write what's called a letter of opinion is the legal term. Yeah. So they go through the acts and the regulation, and I can pinpoint them in the right direction because firearms law is a very specific niche market. So I'll be going through that line by line with him, so he can, with his legal knowledge, he can identify areas like what I said about the arbitrary limits. Also, interestingly, they have brought in a physical ability requirement now for firearms licenses in Australia, in Western Australia. So we're now talking about physical ability, and that's in breach of human rights. You cannot discriminate against people because of a physical ability or inability, which is why we have the Paralympic shooters. Australia's got some of the best Paralympic shooters in the world. So this is some of the areas my lawyers and I will be identifying. Can
you elaborate on that? What physical abilities are they attacking? Or is it a general statement?
It's a general statement. It's just there is one line, physical ability. They are looking at someone's health record. So a new form has come out that individuals who want to keep their guns or apply for a license have a big health record that they have to fill out, including what medications you're taking, if you ever had any heart problems, if you've ever seen a physio, if you've ever seen optometrists for eyes. You have to legally provide that information to the Western Australian Police, and they are able to contact your doctor to follow up if they think anything on that form, which is quite an extensive list of things you have to give your private medical records to the police, who will store that information on the registry, which they use to dox us. I think I spoke about that last time too. So that's another area my lawyers are looking at, because we do have a right to privacy as well. And it's not the role of the police to be storing our private medical information about if we can own a gun or not. They have brought in mental health checks too, which is another problem. Everyone has to go and see basically a psychologist and get signed off by a psych. The doctors don't want that because they do not want the liability if they sign off on someone and then suddenly they do something a week later. And mental health is a very sensitive and personal topic to a lot of people. I know I've had to seek help before when I've had some dark times. And interestingly, one of the things I do when I'm in a dark place is my dad takes me to the range, or my mate takes me to the range, and we have a chat about that. And that's something that helps my mental health. But now the police can use that, the fact that you've sought help from a professional, against you in terms of keeping your guns.
Right. So basically that's going to, we turn this into a men's health thing for a second, hard enough to get a lot of men to go and seek support. And now you're sticking this thing in front of them that says, if I do, look out, because that's a real shocker.
It's kind of, if it's not real, it's almost fanciful, isn't it? It's kind of bordering on
ludicrous.
Not even ludicrous. It's beyond that. I mean, like this. So all this record keeping means that you have to have record keepers.
Expanding the bureaucracy.
How many firearm owners do you have in WA? So how many firearm owners?
So
how many licensed?
90,000, and WA, they license the gun, not the person. So 90,000 people own guns, of which there are 340,000 firearms.
They're going to have a database, and someone has to, someone literally has to go through this database of 90,000 health records, 90,000 physical health records, 90,000 mental health records, and I'm assuming you have to keep it up to date because, as you get older, you go, I didn't wear glasses once. So, it's just like, it's kind of defies any kind of, I'm sure on the one hand, I don't know, WA, but I'm almost positive in WA, they're saying, we need more police.
Yeah.
Because that's the typical, that's the regurgitated political line every election. We need more police. So we need more frontline services is generally what they're saying. But we're then going to have this kind of huge physical collection service that's going to go through all these records. It just seems to be like, you would say that from any kind of logical sense, they're making this massive rod for their own back. And as you said, the doctors go, I don't want to have to sign off with that. But the trouble is, someone's going to create a legal incident with that because you're saying, well, I want my firearms and you won't sign me off. So, it's going to go back and forth. And it's interesting that you're talking about the legal option and you talk about the United States because if you're following world politics, the FBI have launched a class action against the new Trump administration for 6,000. As you said, the first thing these 6,000 FBI employees did was go class action. Not kind of argue against the legislation or something like that. Go, okay, this is the rule. We're going to court on this, and it's actually, it's, as you said, it's an interesting tact, and maybe it's something that we need to really think about. Don't try and jump in a 4-year cycle and maybe not. Just go to court, make a hell of a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that the shooting organizations don't use this as their bread and butter. And this is what I've learned in America. That's what they do. They don't want to exist in America. They're not there to make their organizations bigger. They genuinely think they shouldn't have to exist because the Second Amendment clearly says shall not be infringed. So all the people who work on that, they're actually trying to get themselves out of a job because they don't believe that there should be any law challenges because it's pretty clear in the Second Amendment. I'm so surprised here about the lack of legal action. I know in Queensland Shooters Union do help individual shooters with getting their firearms back. That's a great service that they provide. But when it comes to challenging the laws, I think because these shooting organizations sit down and negotiate with the politicians, they don't want to put their organizations at risk by launching legal action. They would prefer to keep going to the meetings, keep getting invited to Parliament House, keep sitting down and having a seat at the table. They should know when to walk away. And in WA, the time to walk away was back in March 2022 when the police minister doxed us and gave our list of addresses where we keep our firearms to the media, who printed that map on the front page of the Western Australian. And I said that at the time, the time for negotiations with this government is over. You are sitting down and negotiating with terrorists is what I called them, because that bloke was terrorised in his own home, set on fire, and his firearm stolen as a direct result of that doxing. So I think the shooting organizations have put themselves in this position where they can't do things like legal action, despite they're the ones having the money. I'm having to fundraise this. I don't have money for lawyers. It is expensive. I've negotiated down the cost a lot because the lawyers are on my side. They're gun owners themselves. So they believe it's their duty to do this. And they tried asking the shooting organizations and they didn't want to touch it. So that's kind of the political situation that we have in Australia too. We don't have an organization like they have in America advocating for individuals. They advocate for their organizations and the survival of their organizations rather than the rights of the people.
Yeah, I just suppose it's it's a reflection of custom and practice. In Australia, you generally don't go to court on things. You just don't do it. So it's another example of you don't go to court. But I think that idea is there's real merit in that. The other thing I want to ask you about is, one of the things that you see around these types of issues is like the kind of politicization of this is a Labor thing, this is Labor or something like that. But, both historically and in contemporary, as you hope we've got it before, you hope we haven't cut it before, you said that the Liberals have said that they will just keep these laws anyway. I mean, what's the logic behind that, you think? Unfortunately, when we look at gun laws, we don't have our two-party system. There is a great many things that they disagree on. But this is one of those things that they don't seem to disagree. They always talk about the joys of bipartisanship. Well, this is one of those things where you actually see a lot of bipartisanship. And what do you think? Why do you think that is?
I think it's because John Howard back in 96 was a conservative Liberal Prime Minister who brought in all these laws to begin with. And since then, the Liberal Party is not the party of Menzies. If it was the party of Menzies, who believes in private property ownership, individual rights, the family, small businesses, a fair go for all Australians, I would be a Liberal tomorrow almost. There are some things I don't agree with them on still. But in WA specifically, the Liberal Party leader over there has publicly said that she will not reverse the gun laws if she's elected. But there is a faction in the Liberal Party that is still aligned with the Menzies way of thinking, and they want a full review of the gun laws. So I've been working with Nick Gorian, who's the upper house Liberal there, who's been on the record saying the review process was farcical. It wasn't proper consultation. It was a top-down approach where the government were telling the people this is how it's going to be and not listening to things like the 5-gun limit affecting the ability for us to do our public service with hunting and culling feral animals. So there are members in the Liberal Party in WA that do not like the gun laws and do not like how they've been going. But the thing in Australia is politicians know that gun ownership is not a vote-winning thing to run on, because a lot of Australians have been told since 96 Australia is the safest place in the world because of our gun laws. We didn't have a big issue with firearm incidents before 96. I'm sure you've seen that graph which tracked. There was no major change in incidents before or after the gun laws. That's burnt into my brain. The evidence doesn't mean anything anymore. It's the rhetoric, it's the emotion, it's the Port Arthur victims still saying that we're bad people because we want to own guns. It's really disappointing that the politicians just buy into that and they'll just do whatever gets them elected.
That point you made there is worth mentioning if you haven't seen it. When you look at a graph in regards to 96, it's like 96 and the graph kind of goes downhill like that, and it's okay, sure, there's the logic of it. But if you actually look before 96, you realise that graph is basically on a trajectory, and 96 didn't actually even really affect that trajectory. And when you look at things about why that was the case, was that gun violence in this country was going down, and because policing was improving in regards to that. So it was becoming harder, so it was going down. Of course, other types of violent crime were going up. That's another thing that often doesn't get spoken about, because I think knife crime was going in the other direction as gun as per capita gun crime was going down, knife crime was going up and things like that. So there was a change. But yeah, if you look at the stats before 96, you'll realise it was a great big slope, and there's no real. And again, for me, who likes stats, that's one of the most frustrating things about that. The evidence is overwhelming, but we still have this. We're still kind of talking about what it means to be a fit and proper person. Ian,
Yes,
I'm getting a little bit depressed, so
let's pick it up. Let's talk about. One of the questions that I asked the other night.
By the way, my depression has no reflection on my mental health. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Line up at the door. You need to get that ticked off now. It's on the record. So we've talked about how the major shooting organisations in the country aren't stepping up to the plate. We've talked about how even within their own organisations they have differences of opinion, fighting for supremacy, if you want to call it that, or leadership rights, or there's always some sort of infight going on. It's a real struggle to watch the shooting and hunting and just general gun industry, because nobody wants to play nice, as it seems, right? And I don't think that's going to change anytime quickly. That's my opinion anyway. The major gun guys that are out there, they want to run their race. They want to be top dogs, and it's just not going to change. So what? So who? So how? What do you see as the right answer now? If we take the state of play and we have to stand up something else, what is the right type of organisation, new peak body, new something that needs to come into play here for us to get a collective voice? Do you believe that that's possible, and do you think that that's something that needs to be done? Or is the legal action kind of like the only way we're going to deal with this, do you think?
Yeah, I see the same thing with the freedom parties in the political world. So you always have people saying, can One Nation, United Australia Party, which is Senator Ralph Babet, the Libertarian Party, can they all unite and be one party that Australians can get behind so we can break this duopoly? Because minor parties are never going to form government alone. They need to really unite so we can be a force that challenges the status quo. Unfortunately, because of personalities, power trips, egos, the similar things we see in the shooting organisations, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen in the shooting world either, I don't think. I think that taking a step back, Australia really needs to look at our political system. I think Australia needs to become a republic. And I think after that happens, we need to vote on a constitution that is written for the people, by the people. So a referendum on each line of the Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment. Yes, let's just copy and paste from our cousins in America. When we get to that point, we can then have an organisation like they do in America who just advocate for those rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. The only thing I can see happening in Australia in the foreseeable future is things like my legal action challenge, taking these laws before the court and getting a ruling. There's not going to be a solution coming from our shooting organisations when they are benefiting directly from the laws. Mandatory club membership is a big one. That's what they did in Queensland after 96. That's why Queensland's the biggest SSAA in the country. They have done the same thing in WA as part of the new laws there, funneling people into clubs if you want to keep your guns. So they directly benefit from the tyrannical laws, and we, the people, suffer. So I really think Australians need to have a think and ask themselves, are the politicians representing us, or are they representing themselves and the lobby groups and the businesses that donate them money? And I think the answer is the second point I just made. And until we change our system of government so we actually have rights that politicians can't trample all over, and liberties that we are born with, God-given rights like the right to self-defense, we'll see the same thing happen time and time again. And that's why I think legal action is the only real option we have up our sleeve at this current time.
What an answer. What an answer. So the follow-on to that for me would be, that sounds really dangerous. That sounds like the whole, becoming a republic, and not that I'm against that by any means, but isn't there a chance then, a percentage chance then, that when the country sits down, for the want of a term, and nuts out what these rules, regulations, policies, rights are, that we end up in a worse position?
Well, that's the
Because-
other thing we need to do. We need to have conversations with the general public. Like, for example, the shooters and hunters, we are demonized by the general public who don't understand what we do because they've been brainwashed into thinking that guns are bad because of 96. So anyone who owns one is a threat to society. That's how the politicians portray us. That's how they portrayed us in WA by doxing us. A gun on every corner. That was the headline. So until we as individuals, and I'm so glad Mark said the other night, and you too, you said that you're proud to be a shooter and a hunter, and you talk openly about it. You're not scared of any backlash. I'm the same. I'm public about this to the detriment of my own professional career in Australia. My Senate campaign ruined any chance of getting a job in WA because I challenged the police minister publicly. So I think that as individuals, we have a role to play in educating our fellow Australians about what we do. So when it does come time for a vote on the Republic and then a vote on our Constitution, the people are on side and we can write a Constitution that makes everybody happy and we're not demonized yet again. So I think there's a lot of work to do before we get to that point.
Yeah, but that education's a really important part. You know, we've got our small part to play in getting information out through podcasts. I know you host your own thing. I think you had one last night where you were speaking, and you know you've been quite busy. A conversation with Zach the other day as well. There's lots of avenues to get out and talk to the shooters about being brave and have the conversation, and do it politely. You know, it can be normal. Shooting is normal. You know, if you take the hunting away from it altogether, you know, because people have a problem with violence, people have a problem with blood, people have a problem with, you know, being uncomfortable with uncomfortable things. They just don't like it. But if you turn that conversation into a clay target competition or a target competition over here, all of a sudden it's quite a normal conversation. It's interesting. Our local member, we swung round. He's not a gun guy, but we swung round and said, we'll pick you up tomorrow and we'll take you to the clay target club and we'll shoot some clays. We made that a thing at work. And instead of having a steak and a beer with a customer on a Friday, we'd take them to the Clay Target Club and put a shotgun in their hands and give them a good time, like show them how to do it. And you can do that with clubs like that. And it was funny that this politician particularly was quite keen to have a go, although it never had anything to do with guns. So there's lots of little activities that you can do to make it normal. There's nothing really abnormal about it. The hunting side is another subject, and it's a difficult one for people to swallow. It shouldn't be, but it is. It's harder. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think education's important, and if there's a time in the future that we can start to predict when, you know, the conversation of a republic might happen, what sort of runway do you think we need? You know, this conversation kind of needs to start. It needs to get better now. It's not a next week discussion.
Yeah, everything in life is about timing. And I think now that Queen Elizabeth has passed away, perhaps we're seeing more, especially the younger generation who want to be more of an independent country. So I think in the next few years, that's why we need to do the work now about educating other Australians about what we do. When it comes to the hunting debate, I tell stories from going out hunting with my dad growing up, because this is what the left or the anti people use, is emotion. Their debate is never evidence, or if they're statistics, they warp them, like we saw in that Gun Control Australia report. So I use emotion and just tell them this is something I did with my dad growing up. I treasure the memories I have with him. I've learned a skill for life. One of the oldest skills that we have is hunting. I mean, bow hunting. That's why I support Zach and what he's trying to do here in South Oz with the bow hunting ban. One of the oldest traditions and forms of hunting, and that's just been banned by the government, who used a fear campaign to get it across the line. So I really think, especially in a cost of living crisis, I tell people I have a freezer full of goat and venison because I can't afford to buy food anymore. So I've got a supply, and that's from going out on the land, out in nature. And like we said the other night, the hunt is 1% of the whole thing. So I try and tell people the stories about what it actually entails, the emotional stuff, the culture. This comes from being a country girl. This is my livelihood growing up. You grew up in the city. I respect what you did on the weekends with your family, but please don't come and tell me that I don't have the right to do what I did growing up with my dad as my tradition and culture, because you don't understand. They're very intolerant. It's a one-way street with leftists generally. So you use emotion and put it back on them, and they don't really have a response. they don't really have anything to say, because are they going to tell me I can't participate in my traditions and culture when we're respecting their traditions and culture? No.
Yes. 100. What you guys are talking about is something that Ned refers to as that idea of social license. And I think that's a really powerful, it's certainly powerful, but it's certainly a target that I think we need to move towards. You know, what Ned's been doing with the Australian, Australian Pig Dog Hunters Association. Have I got that right?
It's close, but it's not right.
PD, Australian Pig Dog and Hunters Association. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm a member. I can't remember the acronym. About that, you know, about being a citizen scientist, and you know, because we've by the way, we've sent all our ears to be DNA tracked from Northern Territory. We sent them in. So if you don't know about that, Kate, it's a great program that they've run where they've asked if you shoot a pig or take a pig with a dog or a bow, you snip a bit of the ear off and literally send it to them for DNA. And they're trying to create this DNA map of pigs in Australia. So they can get an understanding of movement and get an understanding of, you know, breeding habits and stuff based on DNA rather than like the traditional, observational science. It's actually DNA. And also the Great Australian Pig Hunt, which produced all that data about how much pig hunters contribute to the economy and how much they save government and things like that. And that creation of social license, to me, that's a more realistic target than trying to create a new constitution. That idea. And so that's something when I talk to people, it's not because I'm a proud hunter. It's just that I want to create a social license where that's no longer a proud activity. That's just an activity. Oh, that's what you do. Yeah, that's what we do. That kind of thing. That's the way I push it, or the way I like to see it, is that create social license. So it's just it's not that people are hunters. It's just that they kind of go, oh, okay, that's, you know, I spend $20,000 on a carbon bike frame and wear lots of Lycra. That's what I do on a Saturday. Well, I did something different on a Saturday. Oh, okay. They're two very different things, but they're Saturday. That's right. They're Saturday kind of, you know, activities.
The other thing that I think hunters are really great at, and perhaps we need to talk about it more, is that we are true environmentalists. So my father, who's a member of SSAA South Australia Conservation Wildlife Management, he's been a member for so many years. They've put together money to buy a property in the Flinders Ranges, and that is a conservation park for yellow-footed rock wallaby. And they have that area, they've got cameras there so they can help track the population. And they go in and they cull feral goats. They get permits to destroy kangaroos when they get too big in numbers. That's in true environmentalism, is threatened species, native species. Hunters are the ones protecting and bringing that population back to life in South Australia. That's another great example of something we can share with the community.
Yeah, that's, you know, there wouldn't be the duck population's health in Victoria if it wasn't for duck hunting. You know, those places that are, you know, that are protected would have been filled in and turned into, you know, apartment blocks or something like that years ago. That environment, that ecosystem would have disappeared. The stuff that's been bought over the years and turned back into, you know, habitat for native and also introduced water birds, that wouldn't exist without duck hunting. But we all know that. I don't know how many goats I've shot out of various state forests in New South Wales. It's a lot. I haven't shot as many pigs as I like, but that's a personal, fault on my own. But anyway, that's it. We all know that, and we all know how stupid it is to say it's not. If you hunt public land in New South Wales, you literally pay the government to do a service for them, and you do it willingly. And if you were to go to any government and say, hey, look, I've got this group of people who are willing to do something that you're currently paying for, they're willing to pay you so they can do it for you. They would go, who are these people and when do we talk to them? If someone said, look, I've got a group of people who are going to come pick up the garbage, and not only are they going to pick up the garbage, they're going to pay you the opportunity to pick up your garbage. You know, you just go, who are these people? Where are they? Well, why aren't we talking to them now? That's what happens in public land hunting. People pay to do something that otherwise the government would have to fund.
and
So
they
yes.
and they are thousands of times more effective.
Oh, I mean, that's what it is. It's like we all know that, helicopter shooting is an incredibly expensive activity. I mean, and you can get the numbers. They show you numbers like, that particular deer costs like $7,000 to kill, whereas you've got 7,000 people saying, here's my $55. Can I go do it for you? So, yeah, we know that.
Mm.
So, yeah, the trouble is all of these logical and, real life and immediately obvious examples. And we had some time ago on the podcast, and I can't think of his name now. He's actually the psychologist, Andrew
Day.
Andrew Day. He did this really interesting thing where he said, if you look at hunting and you pull away the word from hunting and say, what do you do? Well, I practice. I try to be, I practice emotionally. I practice physically. I plan. I have anticipation. I deal with failure. I do all these things. They would go, well, that sounds like someone who's kind of ticking all the boxes of what a good mental health is. You have anticipation. You're thinking about improving yourself. You're actually taking activities to improve yourself. When things go wrong, you actually kind of learn from it and kind of go, okay, that went wrong. That's kind of the key indicator of good health or good mental health. And then you put the word hunting into, and all of a sudden it becomes something different. So that in terms, again, from WA government, in fact, if we were looking at mental health of people who hunt, they would actually be in the top echelon of healthy people, ones that we need to be looking at.
Mm. Mm. Lots of positives to be strung
We've
together.
We've got to figure out how to get that into a coherent message that keeps banging away.
Right. So, and this was kind of where my query was going earlier about the so who, and how does that, because there needs to be, listening to all of this, there needs to be a cohesive attack plan. There needs to be something that gets put together. So this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to go about it. If you have a look at the way that the antis, and we talk about the antis, we just talk about the government for a second, how they deal with it through fear. They have the media. And something I started to talk about before we all got chopped off and we stopped our conversation last time was that we're kind of in this new position that we can take advantage of, and that is that the older generation, and some people might get quite annoyed about this when I call them the older generation, but the older generation of people that tune into free-to-air all the time, that watch free-to-air TV, my grandmother or my mother-in-law, not an internet user really, listens to the ABC, listens to public broadcast, and it's public broadcast, which is where this message gets floated. This is where the fear mongering comes from. And it's only when public broadcast gets picked up and then turned into social media that it gets pushed out to the masses and the younger generation. So the older generation are usually, and I say usually, the ones that are more sympathetic to us, because they're like, well, yeah, duh, people shoot. They've been doing it for years. It's been part of their life. They get it. They haven't really been turned around. So kind of bank that lot over in the corner and go to work on the new generations. Social media is our friend. It should be our friend because, we can get to a lot of people in social media and have a really cohesive story about the positives, all the positives. I was talking about the other day, at my work, I don't really tell a hunting story, although, I had a lady on the phone to me this afternoon saying, you at work tomorrow or are you going hunting? And I thought, oh, you've remembered that that's what I do. That's really cool. So they asked the question, and that's good. But the majority of the time when I talk about hunting, I talk about the adventure. I talk about taking 6 fellas on a flight to New Zealand and hiring a chopper and landing on the top of the hill and subsistence walking. You shoot a deer, you got to eat, but you can catch a fish. And you can do other things as well. But, it's really about the adventure of being on the Alps and walking yourself out and having a great time with your buddies. And, hunting's part of it. And I carry, a pickaxe to climb, but I carry a rifle to shoot. It's a tool. It's part of the deal. And if you normalize some of that stuff and imagery, and, we've got to be really careful, I think, about the hunting industry and its visions of violence. you can't get away from it. You are shooting an animal, that's fine. But is that it? Like, that's not it. It's not it for me anyway. There's a whole lot more than that can be visualized and can be shown to people. And I think if you do that right and you have that cohesive plan, you can touch a lot of people and you can tell a really good story. And I think that's a way to get the message out. But the who and the how is the tough bit, isn't it? That's like the bit missing still.
Yeah, that's something, and I'm so frustrated because in WA, when all of this stuff kicked off, I went to the shooting organisations and I said, please let me work for you. I worked for SSAA National for 5 years. I know gun laws. I know politics. I worked for Senator David Leinhelm. I'm a journalist by trade. Please let me help you, because this image we get on the TV of these middle-aged or boomer men who are standing there saying, give me back my semi-autos, that kind of thing, it does us a disservice. And I'm usually quite a private person, but this hunting and shooting in Australia, I've had to be vocal about it because it's my culture, it's my tradition, it's what I believe every Australian should have the ability to do if they choose to. So I've told them it's time, we need to change the public perception, because it's not just a boys' club anymore. There's so many great female shooters too, and also Paralympic shooters. There's so many good stories we can tell from our community, but if it's going to be the middle-aged or boomer man getting up in front of the TV, and it comes across as very aggressive and it doesn't get the community on side. We need the community to, if they're not going to be sympathetic, at least be agnostic. So when it comes time to vote,
sure,
that they'll read a story in the paper about an incident involving an illegal gun by a bikie, and they'll know, oh, Mark's a shooter, he's a good bloke, this has nothing to do with him. I don't buy the line that there's a problem with lawful gun owners, because I saw a young person on the news who can talk and doesn't look scary, and it's all fine. I really wanted to do a big billboard campaign. SSAA back in the day did Year of the Hunter, and they put up billboards in all the capital cities showing, Mark's got, I've got the hat.
it's around there somewhere.
And that was great because it just showed all different people from all walks of life hunting different things for different reasons. So until we have a campaign that the shooting organisations, they're the ones with the money. That's why I keep saying that it's their responsibility, but they're too focused on being the big boys in town or being at meetings with politicians. I think they've forgotten who they're there to represent, and they haven't. They've got SSAA have one mantra, which is to protect and promote the shooting sports. I don't think that they can put their hand on their heart and say they're doing that anymore. So it needs to come back to what is their mission. They need to educate Australians, and they're in the position to do it. And it frustrates me that they're not.
Yeah, that's right. The Year of the Hunter. I've got the hat and the sticker somewhere. It's on the wall there. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's again. If your example was, it's that social license. You can read about it and go, okay, I know that. It ends very much in the same way when you read about a drive-by shooting somewhere. You don't go, well, let's ban all Commodores or whatever it is. You don't associate the vehicle with the crime. You associate criminal activity with the crime, not the various mechanisms. And I always think that would be, I'd love to actually be in the situation where you could say to someone, well, let's play devil's advocate. Do you drink? Yes. Do you drive? Then give us your car keys. Because, the potential there is huge. So can it over. And, no one would accept that.
And you want your driver's license back? Well, you better go on and get all the psych tests, and God help you if you've got an eye problem or you've been to the physio.
That's right.
You might get a twinge in the side of anyway. We can.
So that social license, that idea, and promoting it, and in defence of near boomer men, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. I'm Gen X. Thank you. I'm the one that no one likes.
All right. Can I switch the subject up?
Yeah, sure.
I wanna spend some time talking about your legal fight. What's coming? So,
can we put a circuit breaker in here?
A circuit breaker.
Because I wanted to ask you 3 questions as we spoke about, and I think one of the questions I was going to ask you is, what is the fix? And it's obvious that you think the immediate fix is the legal question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I'm doing what I can in WA because they're the next election on the 8th of March to get candidates who align with my view on gun laws elected. So I am still trying to work on the political solution, even though it's not going to be a quick fix. As I said, gun laws are not going to be the first item on the agenda for the new government. It will take 4 years for them to review and change the laws. So what we see is what we've got at the moment unless we take it to the court. So that's what I'm focusing on the moment. Federally as well, we have an election coming up. I think federally is worse.
I was just thinking, so we could appear like we actually know what we're doing.
That wasn't a question, I don't think. That was just a...
I was going to say, so if we were, because I want to ask these three questions. I just want to ask you these three questions. I want to ask a lot of people these three questions. So if I was to ask you three questions without notice, the first question is, what is the challenge that you see? Because I think you're about to get into that. So do we want to start as, what is the challenge?
What's the second question, just for context?
What's the fix?
And the third question?
What's the opportunity?
Okay. We'll ask them again, and then we'll go.
Well, no, let's pretend that we haven't already. Let's pretend. So what do you see, Kate, is the challenge?
The challenge in defending our rights and having the next generation of hunters and shooters able to actually own firearms and go out and participate in our traditions. Is that the question you're asking? The challenge in keeping our sport?
That seems like a reasonable... Thank you. You kind of know what you're doing around this, don't you? That seems like a reasonable question.
Well, I think the challenges are twofold. Firstly, it's Australians not understanding what we do and the perception they have around us, especially hunting. I think that's a challenge that we can control in terms of social media. Great example. Most of the younger generation are on TikTok and all of that now, not watching the 6 o'clock news like I did growing up. So we do have the ability now to get our messages out and not have it distorted and warped by the media, because as Elon said, we're all journalists now. X is a free speech platform. I'm on that quite a lot as well. Just getting the message out until the federal government bring in their laws banning freedom of speech, which is something that I've been very concerned about. So we do have, that's another challenge too, is the government and the politicians. Politicians no longer represent the view of the people. We've seen that in WA. No one is happy about the gun laws, even the police. There's a police pistol club there that are at risk of shutting down because of the laws that they're paid to enforce. That's the level it's gotten to. So we don't have politicians that represent the people anymore, which is why I think we need a complete change in the political system one day, a republic with a constitution written for the people by the people. And the opportunities for that is having people get out there and share their stories however they can, having one-on-one conversations as well, getting out and talking to people, taking them on hunts. And if they're not comfortable shooting, just come along and see what we do, because you get to sleep under the great outdoors. I mean, seeing the stars out in the Flinders Ranges, it's just incredible. It's back to nature. It's something that humans have, this is part of our DNA. We are hunters. This is how we grew to be who we are. Educating Australians about exactly what that looks like and sharing it with them and not forcing it on them like the left do on us, just giving people the opportunity to experience what we're about.
That's a very good answer. So I think now supporting what Ian was going to talk about, maybe for you, for what we can understand is for you, the immediate fix is your legal challenge. So
in WA, yes. And the other thing...
Give us some details of, how you're spearheading this and what are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, and to add to that, what a challenge for you. You alluded to the finances, and people are scared of legal because it's expensive, and I'm sure you know all about that. So you're fighting that fight on our behalf. How are you managing that, and how can people support you? I'd love to know that. Yep. But firstly, what is the process here? It would be daunting to most people.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm doing it is because I don't want these laws to spread. And we saw last week with that Gun Control Australia report, they were already talking about limiting firearms in other states too. And that's something I warned about when these laws came out. The laws will spread. The politicians all get together, and WA has now exceeded the National Firearms Agreement in what is considered necessary according to the politicians. So they've far exceeded that. You need to stop it at the source. I do not want these laws in WA, let alone in South Australia. When my dad heard about it, he was nearly crying because he couldn't imagine having to give up guns that he's spent his lifetime saving for, that he's got a connection to, heirloom firearms as well. He's got my grandfather's gun here. He would have to hand that in to get under the numerical limit that this government has set with no justification on why he's no longer legally allowed to own them. I do not want other people to have to go through that. People in Western Australia are hurting. The veterans community were the first group of people that were disarmed because they banned long-range precision rifles. Police Minister Paul Papalia is also the veterans minister, so he's hurt a lot of people. I had veterans messaging me via my Facebook platform saying, I'm crying. I go to the range to shoot long-range precision rifle with my military mates when we served back in Vietnam, and now the government that we went over to serve overseas is disarming us when we serve for the people. That the level of hurt that this government in WA has caused people breaks my heart. And I get messages from people all the time just explaining their story and what gun am I going to give up because this means this to me, or this was the gun that I used on my first hunt. This is emotional for people. So because I'm not running for politics anymore, I was going to run against Police Minister Paul Papalia in Secret Harbour just to stick it to him, because I can't stand by and let this man hurt so many people from my own community. Because I can't do that, because the shooting organisations would not support my campaign, and one of them was actively against me, which would put me at risk even more than I have with my personal and professional life. I've got in touch with lawyers because I've networked a lot in WA. I've formed coalitions with people who want to advance liberty. And they said to me, the best option is getting this letter of opinion from the KC so we can identify where we can challenge it in the court and win. So I sat down with them. I spoke to 4 other lawyers. I didn't just take the first phone call and go, yep, sign me up to raise all this money to fund something that will lose. No, I went and did due diligence. I spoke to a lot of people, politicians too, who think it's a great idea, shooting organisations who also think it's a great idea but will not support me with a donation, which I'm devastated about because I'm at about halfway mark. It is expensive to launch legal action in Australia. But I felt because of my position of everything I've done, running in politics and being somewhat of a public person, that I could take that responsibility on and just do everything I can to make sure these laws either get thrown out in WA and that they do not spread. I do not want you blokes going through what the people in Western Australia are going through at the moment.
So, what do you think is the opportunity here for us?
I think the opportunity will be, hopefully I raise enough money. So I do have a GoFundMe set up. You can see that on my Facebook page, Lady Liberty, Kate Fantinel is where you can find me. I have got a lot of support from hunters and shooters in other states because they feel the same way too. Everybody is watching WA and terrified about when these laws will be rolled out across other jurisdictions. So I'm so grateful for people who have chipped in from other states. That has really given me a lot of faith because I've been personally and professionally disappointed by the lack of support from the shooting organisations, despite begging them to not rely on a purely political solution. They're throwing around a lot of money in WA towards candidates and political parties at the moment, thinking that Labor will lose the election. They won't. Yes, there'll be a reduced majority, but it won't be enough this time. It'll be the next election where we could see a change in government. But like we said before, if the Liberal Party have a faction that is anti-gun and they're the ones who have more people elected than the pro-gun faction, we're in the same situation. So I'm trying to do everything I can by going down this legal path. It has taken its toll on me. It's a lot of pressure. I do get a lot of hate sometimes, but I just think it's my responsibility and duty to the people. Even though I'm not a politician and no one's elected me and no one's paying me, I just feel like I have to do it because I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror if I didn't stand up against this injustice.
Yes, I'm looking at your website. Your Facebook page. I'm just trying to find the GoFundMe link.
So you've got a GoFundMe page. You're halfway through it. What sort of funds are you chasing?
So I have to raise 30,000, and there was
a total or a 30,000 more.
Last I checked, so I'm halfway there. So I have been very grateful to those who have supported me. Like I said, I'm doing it alone. I don't have any organisation supporting me. I do have in UA, there's a big gun shop over there who's supporting me, putting up posters. My old gun range I used to shoot at there, they're supporting me too. I will be back in WA on the 20th of February to be on the ground. I'm hosting a town hall event with candidates contesting at the election. So we're going to ask them about the gun laws. That's the primary focus of that event that I'm putting on. Again, just out of the goodness of my heart, I'm not getting paid for any of this. So anyone who can support me through donations will really help keep me going. Because at the moment, I'm staying with my parents who are feeding me. So lucky dad's, well, venison too. So I can't really complain.
No.
$80 a kilo. She's hardly. So I've just got I'm sharing it to our Facebook page.
Thank you.
Working on it. So that's it. So the challenge is, the politicians and the perception. You've decided the fix is for you, the legal avenue. And you think the opportunity is that in the first instance, you stop what's happening, but you also kind of stop the rot spreading further. Okay?
Yeah, and I am active in meeting with politicians. That's something I've done, is build coalitions. So I've talked to Legalise Cannabis in WA. They are pro-gun because I've done work with them. Over East, they're lefties, but in WA, they support us because I've worked with them. The Christian Party too, I've met with them. I went to some of their events too. So they're on side. The members of the Liberal Party who are aligned to us, and the shooters and fishers, of course. I've just been getting out there and forming coalitions with people who want to advance liberty. It's hard doing it alone, but I feel like it's my duty to the people, and the legal action is so the people of WA can challenge the laws in the court. So I'm going to publish the King's Council letter of opinion. I've waived my privilege as the client who's requesting the information. It's not just me who wants to launch a case personally. I'll be sharing this information to every shooter in WA so they can look at it and go, okay, we want to challenge the physical ability thing. We want to challenge the gun limits, which could turn into a class action. I'm looking at it as well with my lawyer. It's a lot of work, but we're going through it so we can have all plans of attack. I see it as a battlefield. You can't just have one area of attack, which is the political solution, which is what our shooting organisations are doing. You have to attack it from all angles. This is what the antis do. They've got it covered. We need to do the same.
That's pretty. Actually, I'm keen to see what that letter says. That will be very interesting. And I think that's a very smart move. Let everyone see it. Let them open source it. Use the information that way.
Well, I believe in being transparent, unlike the government. I believe people should have the information. So I'll put out anything that I believe people need to know.
Well, they've let us go on for 59 minutes tonight. So.
Yeah, they haven't chopped us off.
Oh, no, I've jinxed it.
Thursday must be.
All right. So we will put our thinking caps
early March on Thursday. So
see what creative ability we can come up with to help support the GoFundMe page. I'm sure there's something else we can do with our listeners, and we'll put something fun together and we'll try and give you a bit of a kick along. 15,000 more doesn't sound like a huge mountain to climb.
No.
If everybody chips in. So I think it's an absolutely wonderful cause, and you're doing the hard yards for everyone. So if everyone's just got to chuck in a little bit of money and feel good about themselves so that you can succeed on our behalves, then I'll be helping, absolutely. And if we can encourage others to do it, we will as well. Before we let you go, I'm going to stop this conversation now and ask you something totally different, just to end on a lighter side and put some smiles back on our faces, because this is a tough subject to talk about. Can you just give us a quick rundown of your hunting passion? What you shoot with, what your weekend looks like, if you decide you want to go hunting with your dad, your family, somebody.
Or you eat his freezer out.
What's the weekend look like for you when you decide to go out?
Well, I'm predominantly a pistol shooter. So that's something. I did grow up hunting with my dad. He taught me how to shoot, but he's also a pistol shooter as well. And I just found that to be my most enjoyable discipline. So when I moved to Adelaide as an adult, I went and got my H license, bought a little brown wing buck Mark 22 and won a few club championships with that. Since upgraded to a Smith & Wesson Magnum 357 revolver, which I have a little tattoo of as well. Love my gun. So I'm a big handgun enthusiast predominantly, but I'll try anything. I love going out to the range. In WA, I was invited to a lot of ranges. I can't shoot shotgun for shit. I'm trying. I know I need to work on it, but it's just my weakness.
Coaching helps everybody.
Yeah, because I want a silver pigeon one day, but Dad said I can't get one until I know how to bloody shoot it properly. So I've got to keep practicing. I have my good days, but then other days I just can't hit anything. I don't know what it is. Hand-eye coordination, perhaps.
Let me tell you that the way they score and the way they grade you in shotgun shooting, in trap shooting, is that they count all your good scores and they ignore all your bad ones. So if all you've got to do is qualify as a good shooter, it just means you've got to go more often and get more good scores because they don't count the others. It doesn't matter. And you'll get yourself a piece of cake.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for the advice. See, that's what I love about the community. I've learned so much from other people at the ranges. A lot of boomers too have taught me everything I know, so I can't be too mean to them. But the thing I love the most is going out with my dad in the Flinders Ranges behind me where I grew up. I know the hills like the back of my hand. I just love being out in nature. It just makes you feel very different and gives you a different perspective on life. So going out with Dad, helping him get rid of all the goats that do so much damage in the hills behind us here. I also enjoy growing up. My grandmother had a farm, so just popping rabbits on the weekends with him, just for food for the table as well. We try and eat everything that we hunt, especially in a cost of living crisis. So that's typically but my favorite thing to do is on a Sunday going out to the range with my dad and shooting metallic silhouettes. That's my favorite.
Awesome. Good stuff. I see you've got either by fluke, but I'm sure it's not, a connection to our mate Daniel at Eureka Tactical. I see the logo on your shirt.
Yes.
Help farmer Hunter Feral. So we'll shout out to Daniel. He's a good egg. And he's got some good apparel too by the looks of it. So good on you for supporting
he's my
him.
good mate. He looked after me when I was up in Queensland last year, so he's doing some great work too. Firearm Owners United, he was a part of that. They are one organisation that I think should come back. I mean, it's run by younger people who don't have the time or the money to keep an organisation like that going, but they had the right idea, and I hope one day they can come back because we desperately need a different organisation in the mix fighting for individual rights.
Agreed. Any last comments, Mark?
I just can't call you lady because I'm a Republican.
You can just call me Kate.
That's why that's it. That's why I'm a Republican. I can't do heraldic titles. Sorry. So
it's after Lady, the Statue of Liberty in America. It's called Lady Liberty. That's where I get it. It seems a bit elitist now that you put it like that, but it's about the Statue
don't
of
let them
Liberty.
ruin it for you.
Kate.
Good on you, Mark.
Kate is good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming back twice to finish this one up. It's been a great conversation. I know a heap more about what you're doing now, and I really hope that the crowd can get behind you and really support you to get the funding in so that you can fight the fight. You know, you've got a dateline in front of you that you need to get to. So hopefully we can help support you to get there, and just best of luck. I think it's a great story, and put your heart and soul into it, so you deserve to win it.
Thank you. And thanks to the both of you for everything you do. Thank you for being hunters. Thank you for protecting our beautiful country from from pest animals killing native animals. And thank you for being bold and brave, because we need people like you as Australians to protect what we do. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. I wouldn't regard myself as bold and brave, more like lonesome and lazy.
All right, thanks all.
I do want to know, say hello to your dad since he's a double say hello to your dad since he's a SSAA member, because I'd like to know what he thinks of my column.
Okay. Yep.
I've got the back page every month. So
that's right. Yep, I will. He gets very excited when I do these things. He's proud of me. He said it's my vocation and I have to keep at it regardless what anyone says. So I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for him.
Not a bad way to end things, I think.
Good stuff.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time.